Morning, everybody. 8:15 a.m. It is August 18th. Welcome to my channel. So, yesterday we had divergence in the markets. ES very weak. Nasdaq not as weak. DRAM stocks were getting love yesterday. Semis getting love, but then there was huge outflows in communications and discretionary. Tech just wasn't that weak. Okay. Now, part of this was yields rising and oil prices going up, Middle East tensions. Part of it also, I feel, was I keep mentioning the breadth and the bullish percent index is that once you get over 75% or so, it's a little frothy. Okay. So we also took out the ES 7775 ultimate balance level. Okay. As well as we broke out of balance. Okay. Broke out of balance and we had to look above and fail. That's a bearish pattern, not pattern, but like balance rules. Whenever you break out of balance, go back to balance. Usually go back to the other end of balance. And that's exactly what we have done in the ES. Okay. On the trading front, yesterday with the relative strength in the Nasdaq, and the Nasdaq had a balanced profile. I took a long. It worked initially, and then I got stopped, and then I took a long later on in the session when I felt like the market was bottoming out, and I actually had it almost hit my stop, but then I got a nice push up, and it was giving me excursion. Went to break even because it was pretty much close to the close. I generally don't trade that late, um, and I that hit me break even. All right. Now earlier in the session, if you were live with me, I wanted to do short the Nasdaq based on a new week opening gap, based on the structure of the market, but this is one of those days where tech was strong. When I got into my long, let's say like if we're looking at SPY and QQQ, right? Let's look at the QQQ. When I got into my long, which is right around here, and this is last month's highs. All right. When I got into it, semis were still up almost 1% from the open. So generally, when you have that, the market doesn't generally just go down. Okay. So, and I did get an initial pop in my trade, and I was like, okay, we can go. If you just look to the left here and look at this is a balanced profile, and then boom, that's where we lost it. This is where the short I wanted earlier up in here, right? But I've gotten burnt a lot of times when tech is strong and I'm looking to short it, and I'm like, oh man, that wasn't a good short. But there was a lot. Like I said, this is where trading gets like you get into the weeds, right? I followed my system, knew that you know, I wanted to be short. I did not get a setup. I was looking for a pullback to get short up in the Qs. All right, Nasdaq doesn't matter. It's the same structure. Okay, so I really can't be upset about my trade. However, I saw the possibility of us falling apart was more likely than pushing higher, but I didn't want to fight my system. So that's that. Let's get into it. Welcome to my channel. My name is Steve Gonzalez. Jeez. My name is Steve Gonzalez. I use market profile and volume profile to find structure in the markets. I want supply and demand, gamma, exposure levels, the most traded price of the year, the month, the week, and the previous day. That is my edge. So I come up with my game plans. Now, once the market opens up, I use my market internals to see where money flows are going off the open. A little ICT, Anchor VWAPs, my weekly expected move indicator for Thinker Swim, I give away for free on my Discord. As long as gamma flip points, I give away for free on my Discord. All wrapped up to one is my own proprietary trading system. Now, hopefully, you join me every morning. Subscribe, set that alert. Give you the market story, the market news, the economic calendar, technical analysis, and always give you the long and short trade scenarios in the Nasdaq and the ES futures later on in the stream. If you want to get more in-depth coverage, you're going to join my Discord. That's Confluence Trading. Go to my YouTube homepage, click on the link, and sign up. What are you waiting for? Let me be your indicator. All right. We're going to jump right into the futures watch list here. Okay. And look at our VIX. VIX is up now. And I saw a lot of people calling that the VIX was on 14, that you're going to get a volatility pop. Well, we got it. All it took was some Iranian official saying basically there's no deal or whatever. All right. Now, crude is up 0.63. We're almost back at $84 a barrel. This is not over. Okay. This is not over. I don't necessarily see us going to $100 a barrel, but you never know. Okay. 10-year yield is up 0.28. Not going to help mortgage rates. The dollar's flat. Bitcoin's flat. Dow is flat. 30-year bonds are being sold slightly. Russell's down 0.23. Ethereum down 0.29. ES down 0.39. Gold down 0.43. Nasdaq's your big loser. Nasdaq's your big loser. Now we just got a surge of buying here as I'm talking in the ES. Don't know what that's about. Okay. Look at that though. Everyone else is moving. Look at the Dow. It's flat, and the Nasdaq taking back all those gains that it had. So that Anthropic news couldn't save tech. Silver down 1.35%. All right, let's go Mag 7 Plus here. Netflix. I am on watch seriously for my Netflix. I really am. Came into an area that I'd like to be long. Obviously, the market just pushed lower. Okay. I'm really interested in this stock. All right. I mean, I own it in my portfolio, but I'm looking for a trade possibly as well. It's doing what I think it should be doing. Okay. Up 1%. Eli Lilly up 0.66, Apple up 0.61, Microsoft up almost a 0.5%. We'll go through the 1%ers here. Meta down 1%. Meta is getting destroyed. Okay. Broadcom down 1.36%. Tesla down 1.45%. Caterpillar down 1.72%. Nvidia down 1.72%. AMD down 3%. Intel down 4.22%. And Micron down 4.47%. Now, Micron went over $1,000 yesterday. It's back under 966. Okay. South Korean market down 4.68% right now. That's the Kospi. Okay. Now, top sectors. Leading, I believe Home Depot reported earnings this morning. Okay. Up 1.81%. Exxon up 1.08%. Walmart, I think, reported earnings as well. Up 1.02%. PepsiCo up 0.90%. Johnson, these are all safety plays. Okay. Well, earnings with HD. Okay. Johnson & Johnson up. Chevron up. Salesforce up 0.5%. McDonald's. These are all safety plays. Go down to the bottom of the list here. Palantir down 0.5%. NEM down 0.77%. GE Vernova down 2.20%. Qualcomm down 2.27%. Oracle down 2.80%. Sectors. Staples up 0.74%. So safety is in effect here. Okay, Staples are up 0.74 with Walmart as well, obviously. Energy up 0.69. Utilities up 0.36. I'm also looking at utilities as a play possibly as well. Healthcare up 0.33. Look at that. Technology down 1.72%. Woof. Semis down 2.88%. Okay. Now we're going to go into the economic calendar. All right. ADP employment change weekly already came out. Let's see here. There was no consensus here, so it was more than last time. Here we go. 10 a.m. pending home sales. Doesn't generally move markets, but I'm not going to enter a trade right at 10 a.m. It doesn't make sense. 30-year mortgage tomorrow. All right, let's see what else. Let's see. In the juice, tech drove stock climbs in global equities as long-dated bond yields pushed further into multi-decade highs and oil prices extended their climb. All right, 30-year bond is probably well over 5. Okay, that's usually never a good thing. Okay, and it's basically all about the Middle East tensions right now. Like I said, I still don't think. Okay, here we go. Let's just see where it's at here. The U.S. 30 yield. Let's see here. Brent oil almost up. I thought it just said 30-year. U.S. 30-year hits its highest since 2007. I don't know why it's not showing me here. Oh, here we go. The U.S. There we go. It's at 5.31 right now. Okay. 30 years. That means you get a 5%, 5.31% every year for 30 years if you invested in that right now. Okay. Now, let's move on. Trump schedule here. Let's see today. Can't really see anything right now. Let's see if there's any news here. This thing's not been the best. Okay, here we go. Home Depot beats quarterly estimates. That's what I talk about. Anthropic revenue run rate top 65 billion. As retail stagnates, ad dollars help Walmart stay the course. There you go. Meta faces 29. This is why Meta's been hurting, I believe. Meta faces 29 state trial that could reshape Instagram and Facebook. Paramount seeks 1.88 billion bond from state AGs over merger lawsuit. All right, let's see. Nasdaq and S&P 500 futures slipped as chances of a peace deal between U.S. and Iran waned, while in bond markets, U.S. 30-year Treasury yields rose to their highest level since 2007 as worries of an imminent escalation in the Middle East sent Brent crude prices over $90 a barrel, fanning fears of inflation. European shares as lower, and Japan's Nikkei snapped a 5-day winning streak. Chinese and Hong Kong stocks closed little change as a retreat in artificial intelligence and technology shares offset gains in energy stocks. Dollar rose, pressuring gold prices lower, but remained near multi-month lows against its peers traders. Export and import prices, manufacturing output data, and housing numbers are on the economic radar today. All right, let's see here. Walmart, we already know. Okay, that's that. All right, I think we get into a little breath here. Now this is going to make the Fed's job again. Now we're here, 3.5, 3.75. Current pause went slightly down. A right hike went slightly back up currently from a day ago. So who knows, right? If this oil thing keeps going up to 90, we could have the rate hike coming back more into the fruition. Okay. Looking at breadth. Remember I talked about the breadth was up in the 70s. That's generally not sustainable. Well, we finally got our pullback. Now it took a news catalyst to do that. Okay. Doesn't mean you fall all the way back down to here, right? It could just mean something like this. Boop. And you can go back up, right? But it was time for a break. Now, NASDAQ, let's see the NDX. That's not what I wanted. There's your NDX. That was at 78%. Took a slide back. Okay. This makes sense, right? Financials are overheated. Healthcare was. Let's look at Infotech here. Yep, look at that. It was 85%, 87% on buy signals. And then boop. And it's going to be lower after today with the gap down. Okay. Now we're going to look at the market internals. All right. So everything red. This wasn't like this all day, but everything red. Okay. This was just super weak for this low volume, right? For these readings, this is lately has been weak. See, the market was not weak in the beginning. And we just kept hanging out and hanging out. Now, don't get me wrong, under the hood, SPY was not looking too hot. And I missed a short up in here in the ES. I was looking at when it popped up. I was looking at this. I'm sorry, this pullback right to the previous day's lows. I was looking at that. It actually, you know what? It might have not been that. It might have been. Let me see here. It was this pullback, I believe. Or nah, it may have been this one. I can't remember now. But I was looking at it. Started to go long in the Nasdaq. I wanted to short ES, go long Nasdaq. I decided for the long in the Nasdaq, and it turned out to be the right decision. Okay. But basically, even though these numbers here, these are not the most bearish numbers ever. The NYSE minus 1,000 is kind of not the best. When you see negative 2,000, negative 2,500, that's when you know, oh boy, it wasn't that. Okay. Moving on now. Let's go to daily charts now. Excuse me, I think I got a sneeze. Oh, that was a good sneeze. All right. Broke this little mini downtrend, uptrend here. Let's get rid of that. We came into this daily demand zone. Didn't take it all out, but here's balance rules. Okay, we broke out a balance, right? You can call it the 775s, right? Yesterday we broke back in there, and you should go down. Now, this is not the most pretty balance here, to the 769s. At least that's balance rules. Where are we now? Guess where we are? 769. Now, you sometimes, if it gets bearish, you will go um, the balanced range will be your measured move next. So let's just get an estimate here of what the balance was. 776 to about 769. What is that? $7. So $7 from here would take us to 762 if you do the measured move. Okay, we'll have to see. Okay, let's look at futures. So futures took out this daily demand. And you look, we're right at the balance lows. You see how that works? 7725s. I was talking about that level for a long time. It finally was taken. Almost like 7724, 7725s. I'm like, that right there, that equal low, finally got taken out. We finally hit the 9 EMA daily. Finally hit it. Okay. Does this get the market to move up? I don't know. I really don't. But 7775 was the most traded, was ultimate balance. Okay. That's what's causing this. Not causing it, but that when you go through a big move like that, okay? Qs. Now, relatively stronger. Now, this was a little uptrend that it got taken out. Okay. But we were trying to break up above last month's highs. Could not do it. That was last week's highs. We failed there and at this trend line. Okay. I was stalking a short here, and it just fell. I didn't get a shot at a pullback. I was stalking a short here, and I was looking at my chops at the low day, and it didn't happen. I really wanted it. However, where are we now? 720. Check that out. We are all the way through this demand zone. We are down here. 720 70s. Okay. We're right here. Back inside this kind of ugly balance range. Okay. Nasdaq really taking it on the chin this morning. Okay. Futures. Okay. So, just in the scheme of things, remember I put this daily demand there yesterday. We are not through that yet. Then we have another daily demand. Now, this is a big reversal. Look, broke out of balance. Boop. Came back into balance. Most likely, our destination could be around the 29452s. 297 and a halves is ultimate. Well, it's no longer ultimate balance, but it's the most traded price of the year, most traded price of the month. We're at the month to date anchored VWAP as well right now. Okay. You're underneath the month to date anchor VWAP in the ES. So that means sellers are in control of the ES now for the month. And we're testing that in the NASDAQ. So big time level to 297, 7.5. So that's a big time. You lose this, you are going to go down farther. Okay. Our breath, real quick. Okay. Went from all the way up almost to 70% to 62% yesterday above the 50-day moving average. It is going to be lower than that today. Okay. Let's go over the hourly charts here. Quite a drop here. Okay. Let's look at it here. Let me get my marker. So here's the ES. Now here's that 775. I kept talking about that yesterday. It's like, oh boy, if we lose that, that is not good. And we didn't lose it until like overnight. Boom, look at that move. Look at that move. Okay. So yesterday, I was all about shorting, I think somewhere in, what is it, the 77.97s, I believe. Right up in here. Okay. This is a big move. Now look what we did. Now remember, let's revisit some past history when we made that big move up. See all this poor structure? All right. Let me introduce you to my little friend here. That's the elephant on a toothpick. So this is a toothpick. These bullish for value gaps. All you need is some momentum, and this gets taken out. And I said it's a matter of time for when this gets taken out. And today might be the day where people just go, uh-oh, you lose this level here, the 7725s, and get some momentum. This could just be a day where we just go and clean all of that up and come down to the 77s, 7650s. That would be a big look above. See how you broke out of this balance here? Around the 70, let's call it 7800s. And yesterday you came back inside of it. That's very bearish. We did go down to the balance lows, 7725s. Now, this could really start to fall apart. And as we're speaking, the Nasdaq is breaking lows right now. Okay, so this is very important to look at. Already below last week's lows. We just retested them and falling. Look at the Nasdaq now. What's that level? 297 and a half right here. It's the most traded price of this year, most traded price of the last month. This is your, right there is your month to date anchored VWAP. Look at this. You lose this level. Poof. Wow. It's going to be something. There's a lot of demand here. Okay. There is a lot of demand below here. But this level is a huge, huge level. Notice, look where we closed in the Nasdaq yesterday, all the way up here, and look at the overnight. Boom, 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 boom. That is something else, boy. That is something else. Let's look at the. Remember, the Nasdaq took out this structure that the ES still never took out. When we made this move, the Nasdaq cleaned that up and then went up. So it did that already. There's not much. That's the difference in the Nasdaq. There's not this much of poor structure. I mean, this isn't the best here, right? But there is some demand here. However, breaking the 297 and a half, this could just be like boom, boom, boom. If it does start cutting through, that is MGI. You got to look at that like, uh-oh, there's real selling in this market. This is catching most people off guard. Okay, now we are in August. August is typically bearish. Maybe we just got a catalyst. So 297 and a half becomes a level to really pay attention to today. All right, let's move on to the market profile, volume profile now. All right, this is our market profile and volume profile. All righty. Big gap down. Again, never the easiest trade at all. They're just not. Okay. So, let's get right into long and short trade scenarios in an ES. First thing we're going to do, like we always do, gapping down, big, you mark off gap fill, 77.65s. We know the 7775 area was ultimate balance. We are now pushing away from ultimate balance. All right, we just went into one of these bullish value gaps and we took it out. So I removed that. Now there's more poor structure below here that we could just clean through today if the market really starts, the VIX goes up and more fear comes into the market. Okay, we are close to 100% net short in the overnight. And we're also going to mark off the 50% retracement of the overnight, 77.43. 50% retracement of yesterday, 77.87. Okay. And we do have an overnight VPOC here. And where is this? Last week's lows. We're already below last week's lows. All right. The 7.7 broke the 7.725 level all the way to the left. You can't see it, but that I've been talking about that level for weeks, saying that, ooh, that's the balance lows. We finally broke it. Okay. So let's get into scenarios here. What I would say here, maybe I would expect a little bit of a correction because we're so net short. All right. So there is a supply zone here around 77.40. Also lines up with the 50% retracement of the overnight. You do have last week's lows at 77.38. Okay. You have an excess low here. So if you drive right into this supply, which is a 50% retracement, boom, and you get rejected, fall back at last week's lows, 77.38. You could short that. Look for the overnight low, 77.16, and guess what? Hold on, because if the market starts to really rip, all these poor structures can get taken out, and you just keep going down and down and down. Okay? So be on the lookout for this poor structure. There could be a huge, huge move lower today. Huge, huge. Okay? Now, here's another one. Since we're 100% net short, if we drive up, okay, there is a bearish for value gap around the 77.50. Starts there, and you have the month-to-date anchored VWAP at 77.52. And a supply right around 77.56. If you go into there and get rejected violently, let's say we retest the month-to-date anchor VWAP 77.52, that's also a short. Target overnight low, 77.16. And maybe go for this down to the 76 90s. Okay, that's kind of what I'm looking at for shorts. Okay, as for a long, I don't like many longs. Okay, however, I don't know what the money flows will be going off the open. Remember, 100% net short. All right, you have bullish for value gaps here. All right, let's just talk about this one. This one is from 77.14 to 76.86. Okay, and how they work is this is poor structure. This is inefficiency. Now, if inefficiency becomes support, that generally is bullish. Okay, it's generally bullish. Cuts both ways though. If this market is really selling off, these don't stand a chance and these get blown through. So, if we come right off and gap and go and break the overnight low, 77.16s, and go right into this bullish value gap, and let's say you get a V bottom, whoop, and you get a higher low, and the market is getting money flows into technology specifically, you can get a nice little scalpy scalp or a nice trade, let's say that, up until this overnight VPOC, 77.34. Now that overnight VPOC, when you have these big gaps, tends to be it just switched here. So let's change it to 77.30. If you go through 77.30, you will get a flush, a burst of energy. And I would say probably take your profits around 77.40s. Okay? I could definitely see that happening. Okay? So 77.30 can be a launch point. Right now, that's the only long I like. All right, let's finish it off now with the NASDAQ. You can see the NASDAQ there's a ton of demand down here. Okay? But the NASDAQ is getting money outflows right now. We just took out the month-to-date anchor VWAP right there. 297.11, 297.5. Remember, that's a major, major, major level. Okay? So, big gap. This is a monster. So let's get into this long and short trade scenarios in the NASDAQ. And then I'm going to be out of here. All right. So, first thing we do, gap filled. I don't think this is happening today. But 366. Then the 50% retracement of the overnight. That is your, let's do this here. That is your 29902s. I don't know if we get there either. This is pretty bearish. Okay. However, 297.5 is most traded price of this year of 2026 and the most traded price of the month. Big level. So we have to play off that level. So let's get right into scenarios now. So first thing I'm going to look at is a short. This is not going to be easy. This is a monster gap. This is 443 points. This range already, the overnight. Oof. Okay. So if the market pushes down and we are on demand and you get something that pushes way up into the 297.5s, right? Looks like it's going to go up and there's a bearish fair value gap around 29778 to 29810s. Okay. What I would say is any rejection in that's bearish. Okay. I would look for another little bounce through 297, retest 297.5. Then you target the overnight lows, 29680s, and then take your ride down. We're not even at last week's lows. That would be 29533s. Now there's also a move where we gap and go and then retest 297.5. So let's say you get rejection there. You could also short and find yourself at the same destination. Okay. That would be shorts. Now there is always a long to be had. We are overnight like 90% net short. Okay. So you're always due for some type of correction. Now, the 297.5 becomes a very important level. So if we go up, boop, 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 take out that bearish for value gap that I talked about. Retest 297.5, but tech's getting flows. I would say go long up to 299s. 50% retracement, and there's a supply zone there. Okay. Under here, I shouldn't want a long. So that's basically it for me today. Okay. So these I can't stress it enough. Large gaps are never easy. Large gaps are never easy. So we're going to concentrate on the 70-70-30 overnight VBOC in the ES. Okay, that could be a launch point. All right. Remember, we just did look above and fail. Balance rules. Okay. Nasdaq. It's all about the 297.5s. It's all about that level. Okay. That is it, folks. Smash the like button if you enjoyed that analysis. That would mean a lot to me. As always, hopefully you join me every morning. Subscribe to that alert. You've been market news, economic counter, technical analysis, and I just gave you the long and short trade scenarios in the NASDAQ and the ES futures. All right. If you want more in-depth coverage, you can join my Discord. That's Confluence Trading. Go to my YouTube homepage, click on the link, and sign up. What are you waiting for? Let me be your indicator. Okay. All right, everybody. Got a game plan for today. Big gaps are not easy. All right. To be very patient. It's going to be a wild one. All right. It's going to be a wild one. All right. If I don't see you in my Discord at 9:45 a.m., that's when I generally go live. I'll hope to see you tomorrow morning. All right.